Hello, gang. So, a common notion usually is that AI is a big investment on tech, but that's not really 100% the case. It's actually more something that's a lot different than most people kind of expect. Like, for example, I'm going to talk about a lot of different data points today, and one of those are, for example, out of 25 different tested attributes that have been tested across different organizations of all kinds of sizes, the thing that had the biggest effect on an organization's earnings before interest and taxes was specifically the ability and skill and willingness to completely redesign workflows. Just think about that, not tech, not how talented the people were at coding, the willingness and skill of being able to completely redesign workflows. Now, if you zoom out of that, if you zoom out from the attributes, there's a bunch of other things that we can look at. For example, other data points reveal that companies face a lot of different challenges, when they want to implement AI into their process and into their organizations. But around 70% of the problems related to this is actually stemming from people and process-related issues, and 20% of the problems is attributed to technological problems, and 10% involving algorithms. Usually, the common notion is that AI is a big tech problem, but people make that mistake that it's a huge tech problem, and that's where they need to focus most of their time and resources. But in reality, it's more at this moment in 2025 a people problem. The AI, the tech is already working. AI is working really well. The tech is really good. The problem is just the people needs to be able to utilize the tech, and that's where the big problem is, what we see right now in the moment. So I can give, moving off there, another example of a very common and deadly pitfall that is really dangerous is companies usually have this instinct to delegate the implementation and the maturity of AI in their company to the IT or digital department of their company. But over and over again, this has been proven to be a recipe for failure for most companies. The only thing that seems to really move the needle is a very robust top-down approach. Effective AI implementation, the start of it comes, the most important thing is a fully committed C-suite and ideally an engaged board at the company. Or alternatively, if you are just a startup, an engaged founder. Now, going from there, the data suggests that it pays off a lot to be ambitious early on, going after end-to-end solutions to transform entire domains rather than taking a piecemeal use case by use case approach when automating stuff. You can think about it going after like a use case by use case approach. It's like trying to build a car, but you're designing each and every part of the car individually on their own. Like, for example, if I tell you, make a wheel, make a radio, make an engine, and then make a door, you might think, I'll make a normal door like this one behind me, but you don't know that it's actually for a car that's a coupe model, for example. It's been proven much better to try and transform entire domains from the ground up in a more holistic way. For example, doing the entire economical department, the entire marketing department, the entire sales department in one go from the ground up is usually a way better approach. The big risk here is not that business leaders are going too far and thinking too big. It's rather that business leaders are taking things and thinking too small at the moment. And the biggest barrier to success so far seems to be leadership. Nevertheless, I think a lot of business leaders also, according to the data, underestimate a lot how extensively their employees are using generative AI. C-suite leaders, according to a survey by McKinsey, estimated that only 4% of their employees use Gen AI for around 30% of their daily work. But in fact, the real number is actually something that's like 3 times greater, laying around 13%. This all just reinforces and proves the point that leaders have taken things too slowly, and they have to take and then they actually have a lot more permissionable space to take and go further than they actually realize. You know, and also note that these things aren't just exclusive for big companies. The same thing applies if you happen to be a solo entrepreneur like me, for example. For example, you might have your sales process that you have as a solo entrepreneur, and you might think that it's a good idea to just add an AI feature on top of the sales process somewhere, when actually, if you want to act according to the data, you should actually think about things, think things completely over from the ground up, you know, making a new process and workflow that will be a symbiosis between you and machine, between you and AI. In conclusion, number one, firstly, if we're looking at the data, big corporations are actually kicking smaller companies' butts when it comes to AI. So I just want to make this video and give a heads up and tell the smaller companies out there, step your game up, because it actually should be easier and faster for you to implement AI, but for some reason it seems like bigger companies are doing it better than smaller companies at the moment, which it should be the opposite in my opinion. The attitude and hype of the leadership of the company is where it all starts with AI implementation, AI maturity. You know, remember that, you know, just simply the willingness and ability to easily adapt and change your workflow is one of the most important and profit-driving initiatives that you can do / learn when it comes to AI. I know there's a lot more that could be said around this entire topic, but I think it's good that I'll just leave it here for now until I make another video regarding this subject. And you know, have a blessed Easter, and that's it for me.